Over the years, this flag sat on my desk. So one day in 2004, I get a telephone call. Dad. I went, whoa, Nainoa, where are you calling me from? He said, no, I'm in Iraq. He said, Dad, can you send the battle flag? I've shared the story about the flag with my guys, and they want to carry it to honor the men that you served with in Vietnam, and especially your lieutenant who is still missing. And I was like, wow, of course. So I sent it off. He would take it with him on patrol. So he was carrying this flag the day he was killed. And this flag suddenly then took on a whole new different meaning. Over the years, he's been to Iraq at least 4 or 5 times, been to Afghanistan at least 4 times. It was on the last active sail of the USS Kitty Hawk, the last aircraft carrier of the Vietnam War. It has flown with the Blue Angels, so they got to ride the F-18 as well as the 130. And then when the 25th Combat Aviation Brigade did its last deployment to Iraq, they carried that flag over 1 million miles on every mission. This flag is very special. It's powerful. It has, as we say in Hawaii, mana, which is spiritual strength. This thing has literally been handled and exchanged. Powerful warrior spirit with literally thousands of young soldiers. It's become a huge part of the story of support for our soldiers in combat. I was thankful that I survived my time in Vietnam. I never felt that any of that was a miracle. It was just kind of like lucky. When I got out of the Army, got home, I was introduced to Adele. I was just awestruck by this young lady. Graduated from college and had applied to attend law school. And then I proposed to her and we got married in 1973. Our first child was Nainoa. Basically, Nainoa means one without limits. Always happy, always kolohe, rascal, you know. And then Nakoa was born 7.5 years after Nainoa.
Really looked up to my brother, how he kind of approached life, how he saw stuff, what he was passionate about. Even with my dad's service in Vietnam, my whole concept of the Army came from my brother's experience through JRTC in high school, which I kind of followed in that same path.
That became his whole life. He graduated from high school, applied for, and was accepted at the University of Hawaii.
Our fathers are actually cousins. There were different kinds of cadets. There's the kind that come in very green with no knowledge and no experience. That was me. And then there are the other kind of cadets that come in already very wise in the art and science of Army things. And that was Nainoa.
I met Nainoa on my first official duty day at the University of Hawaii Army ROTC program. I needed a role model. Nainoa was squared away, mature, was a natural leader. I looked up to him like an older brother.
Nainoa decided to join the military when he was in college. Even though he was on the civilian side working as like an IT guy, he didn't really feel that he was pushing himself to the level that he wanted to if he wasn't pursuing something in combat arms or pursuing infantry.
He said, I'm going to enlist. I said, whoa, time out. What do you mean you're going to enlist? All these years with Dad, you haven't learned anything? You want to be an officer, you don't want to be an enlisted soldier. And he said, well, Dad, if I cannot succeed as an enlisted soldier, I have no business being an officer. That just totally blew me away. He went from private first class to specialist to a sergeant, young buck sergeant.
He passed Navy dive school. He had gone through airborne school, even Ranger school. And so to see him with his jump wings, his Ranger tab, and his scuba bubble was pretty awesome.
If I ever met or knew a young soldier who was just really proficient at all levels of being a soldier and as well as being a leader, it was Nainoa. Nainoa got assigned to Fort Lewis, Washington to be part of the 1st Brigade 25th Infantry Striker Unit. At the time he got there, they were in the middle of training for deployment.
We knew that we were going to go to either Iraq or Afghanistan, it was a matter of time. Nainoa called me the night before they were going to deploy. One of the last things I remember him saying to me was, thanks for, being a shoulder to lean on. And little did I know, or did it even enter my mind that would be the last time I would talk to him, yeah. And there he is, in combat, leading his platoon, and, still being a good best friend, a good battle buddy, a good big brother, yeah. That was Nainoa, yeah.
When we deployed, we were put in a tough situation up in Mosul, Iraq. Al-Qaeda had taken control, and they didn't know if they could have a free election, the first free election for the Iraqi people. I would go out every day with a different unit, and I randomly went on missions with Nainoa and his platoon. 8 to 10 hours with him in these tough missions, and you really get to know and see and just realize this was a special leader, an amazing person. He wasn't easy on his soldiers. He was tough and demanding, but they knew he cared for them, and they knew he'd be there, the first person to lead them in anything they had to do, any challenge. He was out on a patrol working to stop Al-Qaeda's influence in the area. They had used their striker vehicles and pulled into a formation, a protective formation as they should. They dismounted. A Chechen-trained sniper at that time was using the city of about 1.5 million to blend in the city. The city was still operating. There's millions of people. He knew in his training who the leader was of the formation, and tragically targeted Nainoa.
I learned later on he was hit by the first shot and he went down. He's a radio operator. Got on the radio, 6 is down, 6 is down. They finally were able to get him on board the vehicle, and then they all quickly made it back to the cache or the aid station. And they stayed there for I don't know how long. We're not leaving until we see that he's okay. Yeah. His men refused to leave him.
Unfortunately and sadly, you cannot train. You can try, you can get close, but it'll never replicate the loss of a soldier, the loss of a friend in combat, the loss of a teammate. It's something that's very, it's the worst thing in your life that ever happened. So difficult to talk about, to be quite honest.
We were mobilizing for the first deployment that my battalion was actually going to go on. I got a call from my parents. When my mom came on the phone, she was kind of choking back tears, telling me that Nainoa had been killed. And I was in absolute shock. And at that point, it was like a blur. I was totally fixated on getting back home.
I pick up the phone. Hey, Ray, it's Allen. He just went right into it. Nainoa was killed in Iraq. He asked on behalf of his family if I could be the one who escorted Nainoa home to Hawaii. We're now on the plane straight from Newark to Honolulu, right? And I remember we take off. I noticed the Statue of Liberty. I had never seen the Statue of Liberty before. So the first time I've ever seen the Statue of Liberty is as I was in the plane carrying home my best friend who had been killed in action. The cost, the price for liberty. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, this is the most important thing that I've ever done in my life.
Naoa, which really means the brave, the courageous. He's been the most courageous and perhaps the bravest of the two. He had to deal with not only the loss of a brother, much beloved brother, but he had to deal with the realities of a mother and father who were experiencing this horrendous grief. I don't know what that means, but I do know what a parent losing a child means, and it cannot be any easier than a sibling who loses a beloved sibling as well. So he's lived up to his name.
Seeing how it affected my parents and seeing how like a parent's love for a child and then losing that's a terrible situation too. Processing the grief. Feel like it sometimes too, I have to kind of keep my own feelings in check. And I don't mean to make it sound as if there's like a problem behind that or there's anything like that, but I, try to be there for them in each way possible on how they needed me to.
It's just a different kind of loss when it happens to your own family. I knew that he was doing what he dreamed of doing for his whole life as an infantry officer, and being so proud of him as a member of my family, to be like, wow, this guy is really going places. That's what was really sad to me.
Nainoa is a role model in every way. He's still my role model. Wanted to honor his culture, his heritage, his father, his service. He was a proud son. And ultimately, Nainoa didn't come home. Nainoa was never able to be a father. Nainoa was never able to continue to live life and grow old. And so these are things that I have to do. And if not, I'm cheating him, and I'm cheating every other soldier who didn't come home. That's important.
It gets harder because the shock has worn off. And as time passes, you begin to understand and realize how much you have lost, not because of the event, but because of the length of time that has transpired without your being able to celebrate that with that loved one. For me, that's the harder part. This may sound a little strange, but I've never viewed Nainoa's death as a sacrifice. When people talk about sacrifice, it means something that has occurred that is of no value. His service as a soldier to this family, to this country, was never a sacrifice. It was his choice to put on the uniform, and we are absolutely proud and grateful for that. But that's not a sacrifice. That is a choice that your loved one made. Nainoa would be the first one to tell you, I didn't sacrifice anything. I loved doing what I was doing, and I did it for a purpose and a reason. And that was Nainoa.